The ships came on a Tuesday morning in March of 2157. They did not come with fire or thunder. They came with light, soft, golden light that made the clouds glow like honey. Thousands of vessels hung over every major city on Earth, and the world held its breath. For 3 days, the ships said nothing. They simply waited. People gathered in the streets to stare at them. Some prayed. Some panicked. Most just watched, because there was nothing else to do when the sky itself had changed. On the 4th day, the message came. Every screen, every radio, every device that could receive a signal carried the same voice. It was warm and gentle, like a parent speaking to a frightened child. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we are the Korvathi hegemony. We have watched you for a long time. We have seen your wars, your hunger, your suffering. We have come to help. We have come to offer you a place among the stars." Within a week, the first Korvathi walked on Earth's surface. Ambassador Thalvos was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow from within, like light shining through pale paper. His eyes were large and kind. When he spoke, people felt calm. They felt safe. They wanted to believe him, and he gave them many reasons to believe. The Korvathi brought gifts. They brought machines that pulled clean energy from the sun and the wind. They brought medicine that cured cancers, fixed broken hearts, and made the sick whole again. They brought food that could grow anywhere, in any soil, under any sky. They gave freely, asking for nothing in return. At first, Thalvos spoke to the United Council, the governing body that represented all nations of Earth. He spoke softly, and his words were sweet. "We offer you membership in the Harmonic Order," he said. "For 3,000 years, we have gathered species from across the galaxy into one family. We protect them. We provide for them. We guide them toward peace and enlightenment. No more war. No more hunger. No more fear. All we ask is that you trust us." The leaders of Earth asked what this trust would mean. Thalvos smiled. "You will disarm your militaries. They are no longer needed. We will protect you. You will join our governance structure. We will guide you. You will release what you call aggressive autonomy, the impulse to fight, to compete, to dominate. These are the sicknesses of young species. We will help you heal." Many leaders were troubled by these words, but the people were tired. They had lived through wars that killed millions. They had watched their planet grow hot and angry. They had seen their children grow up afraid. The Korvathi offered an end to all of it, and so, slowly, the world began to say yes. Not everyone agreed. Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the Pacific Fleet stood before the council and spoke against integration. She was a small woman with gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too much. "They want us to give up our weapons," she said. "They want us to give up our governments. They want us to give up our right to fight. What happens when we have nothing left to give? What happens when they decide we have displeased them?" The council members shifted in their seats. "The Korvathi have shown us nothing but kindness," said the chairman. "You speak of war, Admiral, but they offer peace." "Peace is not given," Tanaka replied. "Peace is earned. What is given can be taken away." But her words fell on deaf ears. The vote passed. Earth would join the Harmonic Order. That night, Tanaka sat alone in her office, staring at the lights of the Korvathi ships above the city. Her phone rang. It was an old friend, Chidi Okonkwo, a diplomat from Nigeria who had also spoken against integration. "Did you watch the vote?" she asked. "I watched," he said. His voice was heavy. "We lost." "No," Tanaka said. "We have not lost yet. We have only begun." 3 days later, they met in secret, Tanaka, Okonkwo, and a man named Marcus Webb. Webb had worked for intelligence agencies that officially did not exist. He was old now, retired, but his mind was still sharp as a knife. "The Korvathi have done this before," Webb said, laying photographs on the table. They showed other species, some with scales, some with feathers, some with forms that human eyes struggled to understand. Dozens of species across the galaxy. They all accepted integration. They all gave up their weapons, their governments, their independence. What happened to them? Okonkwo asked. "They still exist," Webb said. "But they are quiet. They make no art that challenges. They write no stories of struggle. They have no dreams of their own. They are content. They are provided for. They are empty." Tanaka looked at the photographs for a long time. "They want to make us like them. Peaceful, obedient, harmless." "Yes," Webb said. "The Korvathi do not conquer with weapons. They conquer with comfort. They give you everything you need until you forget how to want anything they do not offer." The three of them sat in silence. Outside, the golden light of the Korvathi ships filled the sky. "Then we must prepare," Tanaka said at last. "Quietly, secretly. We must save what we can: ships, weapons, knowledge. We must build a network of people who remember what it means to be free. This will take years," Okonkwo said. "Then it takes years," Tanaka replied. "The Korvathi are patient. We must be more patient. And if we are discovered?" Webb asked. Tanaka smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we die free. That is better than living as pets." They called themselves the Ember Compact. An ember is a small thing, a piece of fire that looks dead but still holds heat. Step on it carelessly, and it can burn your foot. Leave it alone in dry grass, and it can start a blaze that consumes a forest. The Korvathi believed they had tamed Earth. They believed humanity had accepted its place in the harmonic order. They saw people bowing, smiling, saying yes to everything they asked. They did not see the ember glowing in the dark. Over the following months, Tanaka moved ships to hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Webb recruited spies among those who worked with the Korvathi. Okonkwo traveled the world, speaking to those who still believed in freedom, building a network that could survive in secret. The work was slow. The work was dangerous. Many times, they nearly failed. But they did not stop, because they knew the truth that the Korvathi had forgotten. Humans might bow, but they never truly kneel. They might smile, but their eyes never submit. And given enough time, enough patience, enough quiet determination, even the smallest ember can become a fire that no force in the galaxy can put out. The Korvathi thought they had won. They were wrong. The war had not ended. It had not even begun. 2 years had passed since the integration, and Earth had become a different world. The cities were clean. The air was fresh. No one went hungry. No one was sick. Children played in parks where soldiers once marched. Factories that once built weapons now made toys and furniture. The old flags had been taken down, replaced by the soft blue banner of the harmonic order. On the surface, humanity had become a model species. The Korvathi were pleased. Compliance monitors walked the streets of every city. They were Korvathi who had been trained to watch for signs of what they called aggressive impulses. They looked for people who argued too loudly, who competed too fiercely, who showed too much ambition. When they found such people, they did not punish them. They helped them. They took them to harmony centers where gentle voices and calming medicine smoothed away the rough edges of their personalities. Most people did not mind. The treatments were not painful. And afterward, they felt so peaceful, so content, so willing to accept whatever the Korvathi asked of them. But not everyone went to the harmony centers. Not everyone could be smoothed out in a small apartment in what used to be called Tokyo. Admiral Yuki Tanaka sat before a hidden screen. The screen showed a map of the solar system, covered in tiny dots of light. Each dot was a ship, a human ship, hidden among the asteroids, disguised as mining vessels and cargo haulers. 47 ships in total. It was not much against the might of the hegemony, but it was something. "The fleet is ready," said the voice on the other end of the connection. It was Commander Chun, one of Tanaka's most trusted officers. "We can move within 6 hours of your order." "Good," Tanaka said. "Stay hidden. Stay patient. The time will come." She ended the connection and sat back. Her body was old now and tired, but her mind was sharp, and her heart still burned with the fire that had driven her entire life. Across the world, the Ember Compact had grown. What started as 3 people meeting in secret had become a network of thousands. Factory workers who hid weapons in their lunchboxes. Teachers who taught children the old stories of heroes and battles, disguised as fairy tales. Engineers who built secret communication devices that the Korvathi could not detect. Doctors who pretended to give the calming treatments, but secretly gave harmless water instead. Chidi Okakuo had traveled to every continent, speaking to people in quiet rooms and empty fields. His message was simple: compliance is death by degrees. Every day you bow, you lose a piece of yourself. Every day you obey without question, you become less human. Remember who you are. Remember what your ancestors fought for. And be ready. The people listened. The people remembered. And the people waited. Marcus Webb had done something even more dangerous. He had placed spies inside the Compliance Bureau itself. These were humans who pretended to work for the Korvathi, who smiled and nodded and reported on their fellow humans. But in secret, they sent information to Webb Information about Korvathi plans, Korvathi weaknesses, Korvathi fears, and the Korvathi, Webb learned, were beginning to fear. Ambassador Thelvos stood before the Hegemony Council, his normally calm face troubled. The council chamber was a vast space, filled with representatives from dozens of integrated species. They sat quietly, their eyes empty and peaceful, barely paying attention to the proceedings. "Humans are different," Thelvos said. "They comply with our requests. They follow our rules. They smile and bow and say yes to everything we ask. But something is wrong." "Explain," said the High Arbiter, the ancient Korvathi who led the council. Thelvos struggled to find words. Their art still contains themes of struggle and defiance. Their stories still celebrate warriors and rebels. Their games, even the ones for children, are simulations of conflict. We have taught them that aggression is wrong, but they continue to practice it in everything they do. "This is normal for newly integrated species," the High Arbiter said. "Give them another generation. Their children will forget." "I am not certain," Thelvos replied. "I have watched humans carefully. When they bow, their backs remain straight. When they smile, their eyes remain hard. They obey us, but I do not believe they submit to us. There is a difference." The High Arbiter considered this. "What do you recommend?" Thelvos hesitated. He did not want to say what came next, but he saw no choice. "Neural harmonization. The procedure we use on resistant individuals, we must apply it to the entire species. Everyone above the age of 12. It will not harm them. It will simply quiet certain impulses. Make them truly content." The council murmured. Neural harmonization was rarely used on such a scale. But the High Arbiter nodded slowly. "If you believe it is necessary, Ambassador, you have authorization. Prepare the program. We will begin in 30 days. Thelvos bowed. "It will be done." He left the council chamber feeling a strange heaviness in his chest. In 3,000 years of integration, the Korvathi had never encountered a species quite like humans. They fascinated him. In another life, perhaps, He might have wanted to understand them better, but understanding was not his mission. Harmony was his mission, and harmony required that the rough edges be smoothed, no matter how interesting those edges might be. On Earth, Marcus Webb received the news within hours. His spies had done their work well. He immediately contacted Tanaka and Okonkwo. "Neural harmonization," he said, his voice flat. "The entire species. Everyone over 12. They start in 30 days. Silence fell over the connection. They all knew what this meant. The procedure would not kill them. It would do something worse. It would take away the very thing that made them human. Their fire, their stubbornness, their refusal to accept what they did not choose. Then we have 30 days, Tanaka said. We cannot wait any longer. 30 days is not enough time, Okonkwo replied. We have thousands of people, but the Korvathi have millions of soldiers and hundreds of ships. Then we will lose, Tanaka said. But we will lose fighting. That is better than living as shadows of ourselves. Webb nodded slowly. I agree. If we must fail, let us fail so loudly that the galaxy cannot ignore it. Let us fail so completely that other species will remember. There was once a people who refused to kneel. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Very well. 30 days. Send the signal to all cells. Tell them to prepare. Tell them the time has come. What should we call it? Webb asked. Every operation needs a name. Tanaka smiled grimly. Call it Operation Ember. We have been burning in secret for 2 years. Now it is time to become a fire. The message went out that night, traveling through hidden channels and secret devices, reaching thousands of people across the world. It was simple. 30 days. Be ready. The ember wakes. In factories and farms, in cities and villages, in every corner of the earth, people who had pretended to be sheep revealed themselves as wolves. They checked their hidden weapons. They reviewed their plans. They said goodbye to loved ones who did not understand. The Korvathi saw none of this. They saw only a peaceful world preparing for the next stage of integration. They saw only smiling faces and bowed heads. They did not see the fire building beneath the surface. They did not see the storm about to break. The uprising began at midnight, when the stars were bright and the Korvathi ships floated peacefully above the sleeping cities. Every screen on Earth flickered. Every radio crackled. Every device that could carry a signal suddenly showed the same face, an old man with dark skin and tired eyes, but a voice that rang like a bell. Chidi Okonkwo spoke to the world. My name is Chidi Okonkwo. I speak to you tonight as a free man. For 2 years, we have bowed. We have smiled. We have said yes. Tonight, we say no. In Korvathi command centers around the world, monitors scrambled to shut down the broadcast. They failed. The signal was coming from everywhere and nowhere. Using technology the humans had hidden for 2 years technology, the Korvathi had never imagined the primitives could build. Okonkwo continued. The Korvathi came with gifts. They gave us peace. But the peace they gave was the peace of the cage, the peace of the pet, the peace of the grave. They called our strength a disease. Tonight, we proved them right. Tonight, we show them that this disease cannot be cured. It can only be fought. Across the planet, sleeper cells activated. In Geneva, resistance fighters stormed the Compliance Bureau headquarters. In Beijing, engineers cut the power to Korvathi communication towers. In Cairo, New York, Mumbai, and 100 other cities, ordinary people who had spent 2 years pretending to be harmless revealed weapons they had built in secret. The Korvathi compliance monitors were not prepared for this. They carried stun weapons designed to subdue peaceful protesters, not soldiers. They wore light armor meant for ceremonies, not battle. They had never faced an enemy that wanted to kill them. Many did not survive the first hour. Admiral Tanaka watched the chaos unfold from her command center in the asteroid belt. Her fleet was moving now, 47 ships burning toward Earth at maximum speed. They would arrive in 6 hours. Status report, she said. Ground operations proceeding across all continents, Commander Chun replied. HFY communications are disrupted. Their orbital stations are confused. They don't know what's happening on the surface. Casualties? Chun hesitated. Heavy. The resistance is taking significant losses. But they're holding. Tanaka nodded. She had expected this. They were fighting a war with hidden guns and homemade bombs against an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. People would die. Many people would die. But they would die fighting, and that was what mattered. In Geneva, a woman named Sarah Chen led 50 fighters against the main Korvathi garrison. She had been a schoolteacher before the integration. She had taught children mathematics and history. Now she taught them how to use a rifle. The Korvathi peacekeepers did not understand what was happening. They had been trained to calm angry crowds, not fight armed soldiers. They tried to use their stun weapons, but the humans wore insulated clothing that blocked the pulses. They tried to retreat, but the humans had blocked all the exits. By dawn, the Geneva garrison had surrendered. 600 Korvathi peacekeepers sat in rows, their hands bound, their eyes wide with disbelief. They had never imagined that the smiling, obedient humans could become this. Sarah Chun stood before them. She was covered in dust and blood, and her hands shook from exhaustion. But her voice was steady. "You will not be harmed," she said. "We are not like you. We do not want to change you or control you. We only want you to leave." The peacekeepers were loaded into escape pods and sent to the Korvathi ships in orbit. Each pod carried the same message, written in simple words. Earth is no longer integrated. Come teach us otherwise. Ambassador Thalvos received the message on the Korvathi command vessel. He read it 3 times, as if the words might change if he looked at them long enough. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever broken integration. No species has ever fought back." His aide, a young Korvathi named Veltai, spoke hesitantly. "Ambassador, the High Council demands a report." "What should we tell them?" Thalvos stared at the message. Tell them we have underestimated these creatures. Tell them the humans have chosen war." "War?" Veltai was confused. The word was ancient, almost meaningless. "What is war?" Thalvos looked at his aide with something like pity. "You will learn, young one. We will all learn. The humans are about to teach us." By the end of the first day, resistance forces controlled major cities on every continent. The Korvathi orbital stations were isolated, unable to communicate with their ground forces or coordinate a response. Human hackers had infiltrated their systems, filling their networks with confusion and false reports. But the victory was temporary, and everyone knew it. "They will send reinforcements," Tanaka said to her commanders. "The hegemony has hundreds of ships. We have 47. When they arrive, they will try to burn us from the sky. Then what do we do?" Commander Chun asked. Tanaka smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a woman who had accepted death and found peace in that acceptance. "We make them pay for every inch. We fight in ways they have never seen. We show them that conquering Earth will cost them more than they can afford." She turned to face her officers. "The Korvathi have not fought a real war in 3,000 years. They have forgotten what war means. Their tactics are old and predictable. Their soldiers are trained for parades, not battles. Their weapons are designed to capture, not kill. And us?" Someone asked. "We are humans," Tanaka said. "We have been fighting since before we could write. War is in our blood. It is in our history. It is in every story we tell and every game we play. They think our aggression is a weakness. We will show them it is our greatest strength. The fleet continued toward Earth, engines burning bright against the darkness of space. In 6 hours, they would arrive. In 6 hours, the real battle would begin. On the surface, the fires of rebellion spread. Not the fires of destruction. The resistance had been careful to protect civilians and infrastructure. These were different fires. The fires of hope, the fires of freedom, the fires that had burned in human hearts since the first ancestor picked up a rock and refused to be prey. Marcus. Webb watched the news reports from his hidden base. He was too old to fight, but his work had made this night possible. His spies had given them the warning they needed. His networks had coordinated the uprising. His strategies had turned ordinary people into an army. He thought about all the species the Korvathi had conquered, all the civilizations that had accepted the comfortable cage, all the peoples who had traded their souls for safety. Humanity had made a different choice. Webb did not know if they would win. He did not know if the hegemony could be defeated. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would remember this night. They would remember that one species had looked at paradise and said no. They would remember that one species had chosen fire over peace. They would remember that humans had refused to submit. And that memory, Webb knew, might be more dangerous to the Korvathi than all the weapons in the galaxy. The Hegemony Council met in emergency session for the first time in 800 years. The Great Chamber, usually filled with quiet murmurs and gentle agreement, now echoed with something the Korvathi had almost forgotten: fear. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their assigned places, but their empty contentment had been replaced by confusion. Something was happening. Something that was not supposed to be possible. The High Arbiter rose. His ancient body trembled, but his voice was still strong. "The humans have broken integration," he announced. "They have attacked our forces, seized our facilities, and expelled our personnel from their planet. This has never happened before. It must never happen again." The chamber erupted in whispers. Species that had been quiet for centuries suddenly found their voices. What did this mean? How was it possible? What would happen to the harmonic order? "We must respond with overwhelming force," the High Arbiter continued. "Not to reconquer Earth. We do not want it anymore. We must respond to destroy it. Every human must die. Their cities must burn. Their history must be erased. The galaxy must see that rebellion leads only to extinction." He turned to the military commanders. "Prepare the annulment fleet, 200 ships, full destruction protocols. Leave nothing behind." The commanders bowed and departed. The annulment fleet had not been used in 1,000 years. It was not built for conquest. It was built for erasure. On Earth, Admiral Tanaka received the news from her spies. 200 warships were coming. Against them, she had 47 vessels, most of which were converted cargo ships with weapons attached to their hulls. The math was simple and terrible. "We cannot win a direct battle," Commander Chun said. "They outnumber us 4-1, and their ships are purpose-built for combat." "Then we will not fight a direct battle," Tanaka replied. She pulled up a map of the solar system on her display. "The Korvathi have not fought a real war in 3,000 years. Their tactics are from an age when their enemies surrendered before the first shot was fired. We will show them what happens when the enemy refuses to surrender." She pointed to Luna, Earth's moon. "We will make our stand here. The gravity well is complex. The terrain is full of craters and mountains. Our ships are smaller and more agile than theirs. We can use the environment against them." "It still will not be enough," Chun said. "No," Tanaka agreed. "It will not be enough to win, but it will be enough to hurt them. It will be enough to show them and the galaxy that humans will not go quietly. That is all I ask." The annulment fleet arrived 3 days later. 200 ships, each one as large as a small city, emerged from faster-than-light travel just beyond Jupiter. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of death coming to erase humanity from existence. On the lead ship, Admiral Cawthron reviewed his orders. "Destroy Earth. Kill all humans. Leave no survivors." The orders were clear and simple. He expected the operation to take less than a day. He did not expect resistance. The humans had a few dozen primitive ships. They would scatter like prey animals when they saw the might of the hegemony. This was not a battle. It was an execution, but as the fleet approached Luna, strange things began to happen. Human ships appeared from behind the moon's surface, where they had been hiding in craters. They did not attack in formation like civilized vessels. They attacked in chaos, swooping in from multiple directions at once, firing their weapons, then disappearing behind rocks and mountains before the Kovathi could respond. "What are they doing?" Cawthron demanded. "These tactics are insane. They cannot possibly damage us this way." "Admiral," his aide reported, "3 of our ships have been damaged. Minor hull breaches." Cawthron stared at the display. 3 ships damaged by 47 primitives and converted cargo vessels. This was not supposed to happen. The human attacks continued, growing bolder. 1 small ship flew directly at a Kovathi cruiser, firing all its weapons. The cruiser's shields held, but the human ship kept coming, accelerating until it was too late to evade. "They are going to ram us." The aide screamed. The collision tore a massive hole in the cruiser's side. Atmosphere vented into space. Hundreds of Kovathi died in seconds. The human pilot had sacrificed himself to destroy a ship 100 times larger than his own. This was not a tactic the Kovathi understood. They valued every life. They would never throw away their soldiers so carelessly. But the humans seemed to have a different calculation. They seemed to believe that dying for their cause was better than living without it. More suicide runs followed. Human ships, some piloted by single volunteers, crashed into Kovathi vessels at full speed. The impacts were devastating. A small ship moving fast enough became a weapon more powerful than any missile. "This is madness," Cawthron whispered. "Why do they not surrender? Why do they not flee?" The battle raged for 6 hours. The Kovathi lost 60 ships, not destroyed, but damaged so badly they could no longer fight. Their medical facilities were overwhelmed with casualties. Their commanders were paralyzed by confusion. They had never experienced anything like this. The humans lost 32 ships, more than 2/3 of their fleet. But the remainder kept fighting, kept attacking, kept dying rather than retreating. And then, something even more unexpected happened. Human soldiers in vacuum suits appeared outside Kovathi ships. They had launched themselves from their vessels, carrying magnetic clamps and cutting tools. They attached themselves to the hulls and began cutting their way inside. "Boarding parties," Cawthron realized. "They are boarding our ships." The Kovathi soldiers inside were not prepared for hand-to-hand combat. They had stun weapons. They had light armor. They had never faced an enemy who wanted to kill them with their bare hands. The humans fought like animals, like demons, like creatures from the oldest nightmares of the galaxy. They did not stop when they were wounded. They did not retreat when they were outnumbered. They fought until they died, and sometimes they kept fighting even then. By the end of the 6th hour, Admiral Cawthron made a decision that no Kovathi military commander had made in 3,000 years. He ordered a retreat. "We cannot continue," he said, his voice hollow. "We have lost too many ships, too many soldiers. We must return to hegemony space and regroup." His officers stared at him in disbelief. "Admiral, we still outnumber them. We can still destroy Earth. At what cost? Catherine demanded. How many more ships will we lose? How many more soldiers? The humans have shown us something today. They would rather die than submit. If we continue this battle, they will make us pay for every kilometer. They will drain us of ships and soldiers until we have nothing left. He turned to the display where the remaining human ships still waited, battered but unbroken. No, we retreat. We report to the council. We find another way. The annulment fleet withdrew. 140 surviving ships limped away from Luna, carrying their wounded and their dead. On Earth, the news spread within minutes. The humans had not won. The Kovathi could return at any time with more ships. But they had done something that no species had ever done before. They had fought the hegemony and survived. They had hurt the invincible empire. They had shown that resistance was possible. Across the galaxy, other species watched. Dozens of civilizations that had accepted integration centuries ago saw the battle recordings. They saw humans dying by the thousands rather than accepting defeat. They saw tiny ships ramming giant cruisers. They saw soldiers boarding enemy vessels with nothing but knives and determination. And something stirred in them. Something they had forgotten. Something the Kovathi had worked so hard to erase. On a distant world called Valkyrie Prime, an old female of the species retrieved something from a hidden box, a flag that had not flown in 500 years. She hung it in her window and waited to see if anyone would notice. On Thros, the insectoid inhabitants began humming an ancient song, a song of war that had been forbidden since their integration. One hummed it first, then 10, then thousands, on 100 worlds in 100 different ways. The embers began to glow. The Kovathi had wanted to make an example of Earth. They had succeeded, but the example was not the one they intended. The war lasted 3 years. It was not a war of great battles or massive fleets. The humans did not have the strength for such things. Instead, it was a war of shadows and whispers, of strikes and retreats, of 1,000 small cuts that slowly bled the hegemony dry. Admiral Tanaka, growing older but never weaker, led her rebuilt fleet in raids against Kovathi supply lines. Her ships would appear from nowhere, destroy a convoy, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. The Kovathi learned to fear the dark spaces between stars, where humans might be waiting. Marcus Webb, despite his age, continued to run his network of spies. They spread not just information, but ideas. They contacted integrated species and asked simple questions. Do you remember what it was like to be free? Do you remember what it was like to choose your own path? The questions were dangerous. The answers were even more dangerous. But the most important work was done by Shidi Okonkwo. The old diplomat traveled to 12 worlds, speaking to species that had been silent for centuries. He did not ask them to fight. He did not demand that they rebel. He simply told them the story of Earth. We were offered paradise, he said. We refused, not because we are brave, but because we understood something the Kovathi do not. Paradise that is given to you is not paradise. It is a cage with comfortable furniture. True happiness, true peace, true freedom, these things can only come from struggle, from choice, from the right to fail and the right to try again. The word spread. Species that had forgotten how to dream began to dream again. Species that had accepted their place in the harmonic order began to question why they had accepted it. The Kovathi could not stop the ideas. They could not arrest thoughts. They could not punish hope. By the 3rd year of the war, the hegemony was fracturing. 3 species had officially declared independence. 12 more were in open rebellion. The Kovathi fleet was stretched across the galaxy, trying to hold together an empire that had begun to crumble from within. The final battle was not a battle at all. It was a meeting. The Hegemony Council, reduced now to a fraction of its former size, agreed to negotiate. Chidi Okonkwo led the human delegation to the council chamber, walking through halls that had seen 3,000 years of quiet submission. Now those halls echoed with the sound of human footsteps. Okonkwo was old. His hair had turned white. His body was bent with years of work and worry. But his eyes were bright, and his voice was strong. He stood before the remaining Korvathi leaders, the High Arbiter, Ambassador Thalvos, and a handful of others who had not fled or surrendered. They looked at him with a mixture of hatred and something else. Something that might have been respect. "You have won," the High Arbiter said. His voice was bitter. "The harmonic order is broken. Species are leaving. Our fleet is scattered. You have destroyed everything we built." Okonkwo shook his head. "We have not destroyed it. We have freed it. There is a difference. What do you want?" Thalvos asked. "Do you wish to rule in our place? Do you wish to create your own empire?" "No," Okonkwo said. "We do not want to rule anyone. That is the difference between us and you. You believed that peace required control. We believe that peace requires choice." He stepped forward, his old bones creaking but his spirit unbroken. "You offered us everything except the right to struggle. And for us, that was offering nothing at all. You thought our violence was a flaw. It is not. It is the fire that forges us. Without struggle, we are not free. We are furniture." The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. "Then what do you propose?" Okonkwo smiled. "We propose the free assembly. Not a hegemony. Not an empire. An alliance of sovereign species who trade and cooperate and, yes, sometimes fight. Because conflict is not the enemy of civilization. Stagnation is. The Treaty of Seoul was signed that day. The harmonic order was officially dissolved. Every species that had been integrated was given back its independence, its government, its right to make its own choices, including the choice to make mistakes. Not all species chose freedom. Some had been integrated for so long that they did not know how to be independent. They asked to remain under Korvathi guidance, and the Korvathi agreed to protect them. This was allowed. Choice meant the freedom to choose submission as much as the freedom to choose struggle. But many species chose differently. They rebuilt their militaries. They elected their own leaders. They made their own art and told their own stories. Some of them fought wars with each other. Some of them made terrible mistakes. But they were their mistakes to make. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Humans became known, not as conquerors, but as something else, as the species that had remembered what everyone else had forgotten. Other species came to Earth to study them, to understand how such a small, violent, stubborn people had broken an empire that had lasted 3,000 years. Ambassador Thalvos, now in exile, accepted a position teaching at a human university. He spent his days trying to understand the creatures who had destroyed his world and somehow earned his respect. One day, a young student asked him a question. "Ambassador, what went wrong? Why did humanity resist when no other species did?" Thalvos thought for a long moment. He remembered the first day he had arrived on Earth, full of confidence that these primitives would submit like all the others. He remembered the shock of the rebellion, the horror of the war, the confusion of the defeat. "We believed that all beings wished to be safe and comfortable," he said at last. "We were right. But humans wish to be free more than they wish to be safe. We offered them everything except the right to struggle. And for them, that was offering nothing at all." The student nodded. "So we were just too stubborn to accept the good thing?" Thalvos smiled. It was a gesture he had learned from his students, and he had grown to enjoy it. "No, you were too human to accept a small thing. The galaxy is larger now because of it. Whether that is good or ill, Ask me in another 1,000 years. On Earth, Admiral Yuki Tanaka finally retired. She was very old now, the last of the original Ember Compact. She spent her final years in a small house by the sea, watching the waves and remembering all the people who had died so that humanity could remain free. One evening, her granddaughter came to visit. The girl was young and curious, full of questions about the war. "Grandmother, why did you fight?" The Kolvathi were offering peace. They were offering safety. "Why did you choose war?" Tanaka looked out at the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the water golden red. "Because peace is not the absence of struggle," she said. "Peace is the presence of choice." The Kolvathi wanted to give us everything and ask for nothing in return. But when you are given everything, you have nothing. Nothing that you earned. Nothing that you built. Nothing that is truly yours. She turned to her granddaughter. "The right to struggle is the right to be human. Never let anyone take that from you. Not even if they offer you paradise in exchange." The girl nodded, not fully understanding but storing the words away for a later dot above them. The stars came out, one by one. Somewhere among those stars, species that had been silent for centuries were learning to speak again. Somewhere among those stars, the Free Assembly was building something new, imperfect and chaotic and full of conflict. But alive in a way the harmonic order had never been. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had done something better. They had reminded the galaxy what it meant to be free. And that, Tanaka thought as she watched the stars appear, was worth any price.